All right, everyone. Congratulations and welcome to your last video, the 14th video in our video series of creating Node.js apps from beginning to end. I'm so proud of you guys for making it this far, and this is going to be the final video where we create and finish our application, and you'll be able to use your application. We are going to be using all the skills we've learned so far, and we've used many of them already, and you're going to have a full working application after this. I suspect this is going to be the longest video yet, so stick in there and work with me and we will get it done. And let's dive in. So let's go ahead and open our project. That's not opening the project. There we go, open the project. Now that the project is open, we are going to go to the routes because we have to set up the routes, which is what handles what happens between the view layer, and the model layer is the routes layer in between. And isn't that funny? It is in between those two layers alphabetically. So use that to help you remember. You set up the database, you route the database to the layers, to the view layer, and then you render everything that got sent to you with the routes in the view layer. So let's go ahead, and in the routes, we need to create some routes. So right here, they just have this default route that just renders, this index page right here with this title of Express, which we aren't even using in our index page. We have all of our own stuff, and we need to send our page our own stuff. So when we render index page, we're going to send it different information than this. So let's just go ahead and delete all of this. Let's delete this, and let's just start talking about what we need to do. So let's open up index and let's talk about the different things we have. Well, this is the initial index page, right? We get this and use that get to remember. We get this. So this is going to be the get route on just a blank slash. So this is going to be a get on slash, and I will do that just to make it more apparent. And this is just going to be the route that renders initial page, okay? So that's going to be that route. And then what other routes are we going to have? Well, we're going to have a post on that same route as well, aren't we? Because if we go back to our index, we'll see that this form sends a post method on that blank default URL. So that's what this is going to be, and that means, so when that happens, we know that the user has submitted a post form, okay? So what else are we going to have? Well, remember that we have those two buttons, and those two buttons down here, one of them sends a default of a get request on the edit post route, and this is going to be when the user wants to edit their form, so they want to get a form to edit their form with, okay? So let's go ahead and type that out. So on edit post, the user wants to get a form to edit the post, okay? So then what's the opposite of that? Well, we're going to have a post also on edit post, and that is when the user wants to update the post from the form. So we're going to render them a form with this. They're going to type stuff into the form, they're going to submit it, and that's going to submit a post request on the edit post route, and we'll set that up in a little bit. But once they do that, we know that they want to update the post from that form. So what else are we going to have? Well, that last button is a delete, and it's going to have a method of post on the delete post route. So let's go ahead and set that up. So it's going to be a post on delete post, and that's just going to be when the user wants to delete a post. All right, so these are all the posts that we know we need. So let's go ahead and start setting them up. First things is just going to be the get request on the slash, and I think that'll be our first mini challenge. So two things we're going to do here. I want you to import that post object that we created with the post model.js in here where this object that we're exporting, I want you to import it into our index.js, and then I want you to create a blank get route, just a blank one down here. Don't worry about rendering anything or sending the page anything, just create a blank get route. So go ahead and try to do that and see how you do. All right, how'd you do? Hopefully you got it. So just follow along with what I do and see if it's the same thing. So we're going to bring in the post, and we're going to require /models and /post model. So this little bit right here goes back one directory. So we're in the routes directory, so we need to go back into our main directory. Once we're here, we can go into models, and we can select the post model. So that is what we're doing, going back, going into models, and then getting post model. And then we import the exported object, which was that post object. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and set up our blank get method or get route. So router.get on slash, and remember we just have the request and response objects that get passed into this function, and there we go. This is all I wanted you guys to be able to do, just a blank get route, and it's ready to go. So let's go ahead and put some stuff in it. So we're going to use that post object because remember, when the user clicks or loads up the page for the first time, they want to get all of the posts that we have. Let's go ahead and run our server real fast. So npm run dev start. There we go. And so now if we go to localhost 3000, so remember, they load up the page, they want all these posts to be here already. So let's go ahead and find all those posts with Mongoose. So it's pretty easy. It's just post.find with a blank search query, so it finds everything. Then exec to execute and give us a full-blown promise, and then we can start doing things like .then. And if it successfully returns, we'll have all the posts available to us. And then what we can do is res.render the index page. And now what are we going to send the index page information-wise? Well, we're going to send it all those posts in a variable called posts, and we're going to send it all the posts that the find method gave us. So that's what we're going to do if it succeeds. If it doesn't, it's going to catch an error, and we are just going to res.render index. We still want to render that index page. We want to render it with an error and just say there was an error loading posts from the database. Alrighty, so there we go. Now let's go ahead and check that out in the browser. Nothing changes. Why not? Well, what we've done is we've rendered the index page correctly, okay, but we also sent it information in these little curly brackets right here. You can send all sorts of information. You can send all sorts of stuff right here. All right, so you can post all sorts of information in here, you know, all sorts of stuff in here. Some other info, and that'll just be some text or whatever, right? So you can pass all sorts of information in here. But for now, we've sent it either posts or an error. So let's go to our index and start testing for that. So right under the Jumbotron, so we know we're going to be loading this page, right? So right under the Jumbotron, however, we're going to start using the power of Pug to render HTML dynamically on the server side. So we're going to say if error, so you can do these if statements. If there's an error, indent, and then what do I want to do? I want to have, let's say, a H3 with text of danger, and I'm going to set it equal, and notice how I have just no space there. If I have a space, okay, so I'll show you what happens if I do this. If I have space, and I try to set this H3 element to the error that was sent to me when I rendered it. Okay, I'm going to save that. Oh, well, there isn't an error being sent, so let's just say if not error, just so I can show you this. So what gets rendered is equals error. So what we need to do is that right there. and that's not going to render because there is no error being sent, but you saw what happens if you put that space there. So make sure it's right up against the element that you want to set equal to something, and you'll be able to tell because this is white and the syntax highlighting, whatever editor you're using, the syntax highlighting will show you that this is a variable, not just some plain text. So if there's an error, I want you to show the error message down there. So otherwise, it's going to render everything else out correctly. So right now we're just rendering all these dummy posts, but we can go ahead and take these out. We'll take out at least these two right here. And then we're going to dynamically render the rest of these. So we're going to say for post in posts, because remember we're getting sent all the posts. So we are going to, each one's going to have a row with a margin on the top of 3. And pretty much we can just copy all this. So I'm not going to type all this out when I can just, indent everything I have here. All right, so right now I'm manually setting the card title to an awesome title, but remember I want to set it equal to my post dot title. And here I want to set this equal to my post dot message. Okay, and down here the value, I don't want those in parentheses or in quotation marks because I want to actually be accessing the post ID right here. So what's happening is in the route, I use Mongoose to find all my posts, and once I find all the posts, I pass them in to the index page right here. So that's going to contain a JSON or an array. It's going to pass an array of all my posts, and all my posts are going to have properties on them of title, message, and remember there's that default one created by MongoDB itself, which is ID, which is going to be unique for every post, which works out well because here, for every post, I want it to have its value of these edit and delete. I want it to have a unique post ID so that I can know which post I want to edit or delete. So that works out well. And then right here, I'm just using the post message and the post title, and it's going to do that for every single post that I render in my posts information that I sent over to the index page. So let's go ahead and save that, look at our browser, and we have no posts. We don't have an error, so we know that it succeeded, but why don't we have any posts? Well, we don't have any. We haven't created any yet. So let's go ahead and set up a post method on that form to be able to create some so we can start seeing some posts. So here with a post, the user has submitted a post form. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing, router.post, and on that blank URL, we are going to create a method passing in the request and a response. And now we are just going to say post.create because we're creating a post on this method. And the title of the post we're creating is going to be from request.body.title. And the message is going to be from the request.body.message. So easy enough. And then if that succeeds, we are going to render, Okay, so what we're doing here is we're creating our post and it'll save to the database. And once it does, we want to say .then. And what we're going to want to do is we're actually going to want to re-render all these posts again. So we're going to have to find them all. So let's say find all of them again. And once it does that, once again, we want to render the index page with all the posts, and that's going to include the new post that we just created. And so right here, if there's an error here, it's going to catch and say there is an error loading posts. But let's actually take that out and let's have a catch all here. And we're going to say catch um, and we'll just say res.render index still, and we'll just say with an error of there was an error creating the new post. So this way, whether there's an error finding all the posts or an error creating the post, in general, it has to do with this whole creation route. So that's the error we're going to send to the user. So once we have that set up, we can go ahead, check out our browser, reload it, and we can actually start using this. So remember, this brings us our post. So we're going to say, this is my title, yay, and this is an awesome, interesting message. So once we have that, submit the post, and this is going to post on that blank route. So there we go. And awesome, we get errors. What is the error? Well, the error is cannot read property length of undefined, and that's right here. Now, the reason for this, and I've had to deal with this before. So what's happening is we're trying to render the posts. We're saying for the post, for each post in post, do something. Well, remember up here how we said if there's an error, do something, and we had to do that because sometimes we're going to render with the posts and sometimes we're going to render with an error. Well, in here we said if there's an error, do something. But down here we just said always do this. But however, what happened is there is no posts to do it with, so we have to say if posts. So first, before we try to use something, we should probably, let me indent all that. So first, before we do something, we should probably try to test to see if it exists, and now we can do something with it. Now, let's go ahead and save that, and now we're going to see another error, but we're going to see an error in the way we want. So let's add a new post, new title, and message. So I have information in both of these. Now let's submit the post, and we have this. There was an error creating post. So now we're getting what we expected. We at least expected to get an error, or we expected to get all the posts. So this is what we got. So at least we didn't get that huge mess of stuff. But why did we get that error? Well, if we go over here, we need the title to, we need to get the title from request.body. We also need to get the message from request.body. Well, if we go to index.pug and we go to our form, the issue, you guys might have noticed this when we were doing it, is the name for both of these is title. So we have a request.body.title and we have a request.body.title. Well, we obviously need to change this to message. We also need to change these to message. So that, again, problems with copying and pasting, you forget to change stuff, and that is what you get. So bad practice, but I did it and I screwed myself up. So let's go ahead and load our page back up, and let's create, okay, a test title and a test message, and let's submit it. And there we go. So this time when we submitted, we did send a post request on that blank route, and then our index.js handled that and created a post for us. And then after it created that, it rendered all the posts again for us on that index page. So it was almost instantaneous. So a second post title and message. And there we go. So it's almost instantaneous. It just creates and reloads, and here we go. There's our posts again. So pretty cool stuff. So let's go ahead and keep doing these. So these get a little bit more complicated. So now we have these posts right here, and we have this edit and delete buttons, right? Well, when the user clicks, let's go ahead and, okay, so obviously we don't have a route for that yet, but let's go ahead and set up this delete button first. So if we go over to index.pub, we know that each delete button is actually a submit button for a form that has a hidden input, and that hidden input has a value of our post ID, which is going to be a unique ID for every single post. So since we know that, we know we're going to be sent request.body.underscore ID. So we can go ahead and grab that and use it in our delete route. So let's go ahead and go to our delete route. And we're just going to say router.post on delete post URL, request, response, and we're going to say post.find, and down here find one and remove. So this is a default Mongoose method they give us to find something and remove it, and we find it by passing in a query. So we want to find one whose ID matches our request.body.id that was passed to us. And then we're going to say execute to create a full promise, and then we're going to say .then. And once again, we're going to be doing this whole thing right here. So bad practice, but I'm going to copy and paste again and just double check that I did everything. So then we are going to find all the posts, and then after that we're going to render everything, and at the very end we're going to catch, and if there's any sort of error in this whole process, we're just going to res.render index with an error of there was an error deleting the post. Alright, so there we go. And now that we have that, we should be able to delete posts. So let's go ahead and test it out. Nope. We just want to reload our entire page. There we go. So now that's reloaded, delete, and there we go. Instantaneously gets deleted. So what happened was it sent a post request along with the ID over to the URL of delete post, and we received it and deleted it and then re-rendered all the posts to the page. So success on that. So now let's start messing with the edit button. So first we have to get the form to edit. So what we're going to do is we're going to say router.get, and if there's a get request on the URL of edit post, then we kind of create our function, and we are going to say that we want to find that post that they want to edit. So they sent us a get request, and what a get request does is it puts the request properties in a different area. Instead of being in the body, it's in an area called the query. So we want to find that post with the request query that they sent us, and that query is going to contain this post ID. So, and it's going to be called ID. So let's go ahead and use that to find the post they want to edit. So post.find and the query. So we want to find the post with an ID. Goodness, ID of request.query.id, and then we want to execute to get the promise, and then we want to say .then, and it's going to give us a post, and it's going to give us a post, and then we would create a function that we're going to do something, and what we are going to do is, for now, fix that to find. For now, let's just console log that post out. Console.log post. So let's go to our browser, and right here we're going to reload, and then we're going to click edit. And it gets stuck loading. That's because we did not finish the response, but we should see right here the post that we found. So, and you notice this is an array, is because this find method finds all the posts that match this. However, there's only going to be one because each ID is unique, so we could actually change this to find one, and it will do the same thing. So now instead of getting an array, it just gives us a single object back, which is this single post. Now I'm going to go ahead and pause this video right here and split this third part of the final project into two separate videos just because this is getting kind of long, so I'll see you guys in the next one.